Okay, so I submitted this feature request to user voice about getting nearest neighbor scaling in Adobe Premiere. This is super important because, as you can see from this comparison here, sprite art looks absolutely hideous unless you're using nearest neighbor. However, that's not even enough. What we also need is a nearest neighbor bilinear hybrid, where it uses nearest neighbor for the integer scaling, that is 100%, 200%, 300%, 400%, etc. But it uses bilinear for everything else, like rotating and for scaling between the integers, so 427%, and so on. That's the hybrid solution that I am also requesting. This video is basically for the Adobe engineers who may or may not be watching, and I hope that somebody is, because this is important. There's no way to do this in Premiere or After Effects easily. So I actually created this comparison right here. Let's get rid of these overlays. And I asked people what they thought. Let's watch it right now. Aha. It's the in-game scaler on the left, and then it's my own personal nearest neighbor bilinear hybrid on the right. As you can see, when we're zooming out, you can see sort of these lines that move across the image as it's trying to keep some pixels, but then it moves others. And what you end up with, and you can especially see it if I turn the pixel grid back on, what you end up with is some of these squares, supposed to be squares, end up being only 3 pixels, and some of them end up being what they're supposed to be. Some of them end up squashed the other way. That's just the natural consequence of what happens when you're using nearest neighbor for absolutely everything. Nearest neighbor does not look good when you're actively scaling it, when you're animating a scale. This actually looks fine if you're just sitting there. So here on the right, you can see that it's actually fading between them. It's much, much smoother. You see that? Down, 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 and snaps right into place right there. And now we are at 4 pixels per square, right? And we are the same on the native nearest neighbor. See that? So this is what nearest neighbor will look like. And this is what nearest neighbor bilinear hybrid will look like. For this next demonstration, I'm going to be using screenshots from the Koshan conspiracy, whatever. Oh, shut up. Basically what I figured out is, first of all, you gotta, select a piece. And it's not enough to, okay, actually, first of all, it's already blurry because look, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm not on integers right now. See, I'm not quite lined up with the pixel grid except right about now. And I can check this by going to position. Aha, there's a point, whatever. Yeah, get rid of that. There we go. See, you want to be on integers. Second of all, it actually doesn't matter which one of these I'm using if I'm on integers, but if I'm not, aha, look. Even if this is like 0.6 and I'm on nearest neighbor, it looks better. Nearest neighbor, always perfect. Here's the problem with nearest neighbor. If you try to rotate, you're going to get these jagged pixel edges. What do I mean? Let's zoom in. Whoa! Look at those jaggedy jaggeds. Now you might want this, and that's fine, but you should have options. What I want is for the edges of these pixels, well, let's just call them squares, to be anti-aliased, basically, but the pixels themselves I don't want to be, because that's because this is what happens. And it is possible. What you have to do to make that happen is to first scale it up to whatever percentage you want. Let's just go as big as we possibly can. But it has to be an integer, so let's say 800, okay? And then you pre-compose this, right? So pre-compose, and now I can take this and rotate it around. Zoom in, aha! As you can see, the edges of these pixels are fuzzy. Well, not fuzzy, but they're blended. This is good. This is what we wanted. But look at the problem here. If I touch the sampling button thing too many times, and I end up back at bilinear, which is what this slash means. Look, I've ruined what I had. What's going on? This is all fuzzy now. Well, guess what? You have to double click, come back into here, and for some reason, it's been changed to bicubic. So click that again to get back to nearest neighbor, close that out, and now, ta-da, we're back to having our nearest neighbor bilinear hybrid. Hooray! Now, here's the composition where I actually figured all of that out. What this is called, by the way, is pre-scaling. And you can do this just using Photoshop, but that's not going to work if you're trying to do a video, which is why you need to do it this way instead. And here's the thing, look at this. Now we're down to scale 50%, and this guy here is still beautiful. Yeah, this is still 1 pixel per pixel because this was actually quite difficult. But I had to line up the anchor point directly on the edge of 4 pixels, right on the 4 corners. Otherwise, that doesn't work, right? But look at this. I then moved it down by half a pixel. You can see all of these pixels are, they're halfway between. But back over on the nearest neighbor, that doesn't happen. See, look, it's moving down. It's down by half a pixel, but nothing's changed. It's back up. And now it's going to move down by even more, and then back up. And now let's look at what that looks like on both of them simultaneously. Check this out. Down by half a pixel, back up. Very, very slight change. Down a bunch, and back up a bunch. If you're paying attention, you can see that this one, the nearest neighbor, is going, so it's sort of stuttering because it has to, because it doesn't have any ability to go in between like the hybrid does. See that? But this is still a bad way to do this because you can't always afford to pre-scale 1,000%, especially if you're dealing with like a screen capture, and my screen capture is at 4K, and you want to do one of these babies. Whoa! This here would have to be scaled 1,000% in some other sequence and then brought back in. That's horrifying. Your computer cannot load that. It is enormous. So back in After Effects, here's my final current solution, the fancy method. This is going to take some explaining. Okay, so check this out. I've got a slider control right here, and it starts at 100. And it goes all the way up to 8,000, right? So I've programmed it in this sequence here so that it will only scale this image up if it is 200 or above, 300 or above, and so on. As you can see, look, see? So it's only going with the integers, right? That's what deduct is. That's the actual scale that we're using. Da-da, da-da, right? This makes perfect sense because nearest neighbor isn't good for anything else. It's only good for integers. And then what I did was I took the remainder here, which is 74.36, blah, blah, blah. And I did some fancy math to figure out just how much I should be scaling it in by linear, which is what all of this does. Boy, was this hard to figure out. Let me tell you. I've currently turned this expression off, just so that you can see again. Yes, there it is. And then it's got some rotation in there now, just so that I can check. Let's see. Yes, we have the hybrid is going properly now. So now I'm going to add in this fancy pants expression. And watch this. As you can see, every single time that it runs into an integer, whoa. Okay, so we've got some problems right here. I don't know what's going on, but basically, even though this is supposedly a straight line, yeah. Oh, there's still some Bezier handles on here, so I'm just gonna take this and, yeah, I'm just gonna turn this into a hold keyframe, and then that should stop flashing like that. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, cool. So I will give you access to this After Effects project So just in case you are absolutely crazy like I am, you can use Taran's nearest bilinear hybrid for your own purposes. And then you too can do stuff like this, except properly. And I would I would really appreciate if somebody could show me like a better way to okay, these are actually just text boxes. This is the fancy math. I would appreciate it if somebody could find a better formula or a better way to lay this out. I don't know, an easier way to make this happen. Really, we just need the hybrid, you know, as one of these options right here. We should just be able to click and it just appears, right? But yeah, look at how beautiful that is. Oh yeah. See, look at those perfect pixel edges. That is what we want. That is the power of hybrid scaling. Mathematically perfect. So Adobe developers, if you're listening, I know I ask for a lot, but if you could make a bilinear nearest neighbor hybrid and just put it right here, you know, on one of these. And also I want it for Premiere, of course. And I don't mean just put it on the transform effect. The transform effect has some serious issues. It's super buggy. And is it, whoa. Oh God. Like I said, super buggy, and it stutters even when you're using bicubic. Oh my gosh. Don't put it there. I mean, sure, to go ahead, but please put it on the motion effect. Look, this is still broken now. Oh my gosh. From the motion effect, we need bicubic, nearest neighbor, and nearest neighbor bilinear hybrid. You can also throw in bilinear if you want. If you want. Otherwise, I'm going to have to do this every time that I want for my pixels to not be ruined. And that way, when we see somebody doing this, where they just zoom way the hell in, on their screen capture, we can just say, hey dude, just use the hybrid and it'll look so much better. Okay, that's the end of my video. Por favor. Bye-bye. Oh, by the way, one last important thing. If you want to render just part of your composition as draft mode, this guy says, oh no, I have to do it with proxy rendering. No, you don't. All you got to do is this. Let me just show you where that is. So let's say that we've got, oh, where are we? This thing where I deliberately want for these two to be in draft mode. You click on Custom Best Settings and use Current Settings. Do not just have it on Best Settings. That's the default. Current Settings uses whatever you have each of your layers as. So you can render it out just the way it appears here. Cool, eh?